So the arrival of HBO Max has signaled the heat up of the streaming wars amidst a very confined, very intense summer entertainment season. Upon launch, we have access to a few originals, a limited glut of current channel libraries, and a full slew of classic movies and series from around the Warner Media Library. For animation and comic book fans alike, we have some hot new releases on the way, such as the first part of the Adventure Time Distant Lands miniseries or the 6-part Snyder Cut. Out of the Skim release day lineup, perhaps one of the most surprising of them all, even being an early launch title, would perhaps be Sesame Workshop's extension into the ring of new IPs, the Not Too Late Show with Elmo. It's a simple little series. It's a condensed, somewhat more structured take on the widely appealing talk show format. Elmo gets fitted into his best suit, sits down with his on-air sidekick Cookie Monster, invites some guests, plays some games, hosts some live music, and hops off for the night. All the while, there's some wacky backstage chaos to keep the continuity fresh for the adults, I think. It's interesting because during the Kevin Clash era of Elmo's tenure, he was an absolute cut-up on other people's shows. Not necessarily because he was just that funny, but he went off script more than a few times without it being very jarring or out of character.
What is it?
You can't go to the bathroom.
What do we got, 2 minutes? Is that 2 minutes? Did she say 2 minutes?
No, we've been talking for 2
Elmo
minutes.
came this far, and he gets 2 minutes?
No, she's saying we've only been going for 2 minutes.
Do you know how much it costs to fly here?
He was just that outrageous. I guess the next natural step in the workshop's great inquisition would be to give its most prolific child star yet another show. I mean, no shade, the guy can entertain and all, but I have to wonder how on brand it is, despite it being an innocuous piece of filler content. Like, every episode starts off with a close-up on the exterior of his apartment. Like, he still lives on the street, but does his energy radiate more gentrification than anything? It's a question that's been on my mind for a while now. Sesame Street is obviously a multi-million-dollar juggernaut with its furry little hands in dozens of projects around the world, all in the name of helping kids from all walks of life. Every region having a different set of issues that they can help with. Its influence is spread across many decades, continents, and populations, which is what makes its more recent domestic switches a bit jarring. The Not Too Late Show with Elmo feels symbolic of the program's stateside accessibility issues. The futility of larger issues in the sphere of educational funding is one of the many catalysts that led the show's move from publicly funded PBS to the private HBO family. Under such a regime, this series has a timed exclusivity deal with both parties. Episodes premiere on PBS 9 months after they make their real debut on HBO. The deal is said to benefit both parties, as the former isn't on the hook for the street's expansive financial commitment, while the latter gets fodder for its libraries faster. Certain exceptions have been made in recent years to accommodate more important issues, such as the debut of Julia, a Muppet character designed to aid in discussions of autism awareness. The initiative, being in development for nearly a decade, was tendered with the help of many organizations, one of which being the infamous organization known as Autism Speaks. While seemingly utilizing these resources in a more equal spread, by 2019, much of the material distributed by Sesame Workshop came under fire and intense scrutiny for the aforementioned organization speaking for autistic people in counterproductive and inappropriate ways, to the point where its other consultants would leave their partnership as a result of the workshop turning away from their ideas. Again, this new venture isn't problematic by itself. It's definitely more soft and earnest than some other recent hosts.
Oh my god, one more of these ads in my feed, and I'm deleting YouTube. Who was like, oh hey, let's give the most unfunny person ever a show.
But it may be indicative of a wider problem here. You've got one of its newer, younger, hip-hopping representatives of the street's gentrified community hitting the town at night with a polished, high-concept platform to entertain himself. It feels like just a few days ago he was playing an antiquated piano in the middle of the block. In trying to reach more kids and audiences, Sesame Street perhaps feels like an earnest attempt to move away from its roots than to stick to them. Sure, they've got legacy branding on their side. They can throw out a few old songs and deliver some dogma and we'll be satisfied for a minute. But the implications of it losing its edge socially and inevitably financially might point to this pattern of distancing from some earnest groupings in a bid to help them. This is not meant to be an expose or a master post of Sesame Workshop's misgivings and controversies. This isn't nearly as long as something of such caliber would justify. Also, there's no intent to downplay their past accomplishments. They've done a bunch. Now more than ever, I'm grateful that there's an ally out there as old and as powerful as they are. These are just things to think about, especially in the vein of their unintentional impact on the populace. Blurred lines have never been so muddy, and this is a multifaceted discussion. That said, if there were one way to help bring more people together throughout these chaotic times, one would perhaps lie in trying to bring the street back to Sesame.